because a British boy who has not been seen since his mother and grandfather supposedly abducted him in Spain 6 years ago, he's been found alive and well in France. Alex Batty, originally from Oldham in Lancashire, was just 11 when he didn't return from a holiday with his mother Melanie and grandfather David in 2017. Alex's grandmother and official guardian said in 2018 she believed her daughter and ex-husband had taken him abroad to live, in her words, an alternative lifestyle. But now, 6 years after his disappearance, prosecutors say that Alex has been found alive and well near Toulouse after fleeing a spiritual community located in the foothills of the French Pyrenees. It's an extraordinary story, and joining me now to discuss it is former Detective Constable for Greater Manchester Police, Maggie Oliver. And of course, Maggie runs her own very, very worthwhile trust looking after young women in this country. Maggie, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. I mean, this is one of those stories that's got a very happy ending, but an extraordinary story, really, because I don't think anybody really knew that, one, this boy was missing, and two, what had actually, I don't remember anything being written about this before.
No, good evening, Mike. You know what, Mike? I don't either. I've never even heard about this, even though I don't live far from Oldham.
Yeah.
I think one of the things it shows is just how, I guess, fickle the media is. Because if you look at what happened to Madeleine McCann, everybody in the world knows who she is.
Yeah.
And yet this little boy went missing, and, you know, nobody's heard anything about it.
Yeah.
I think it raises a lot of questions about, you know, the impact of a family breakup. I don't know a great deal about this story, Mike. I've never heard of it until today. But I think the thing that, you know, struck me straight away was the impact on this now a young man, you know, dragged away from his country, from his grandma, who apparently had custody of the little boy. That raises questions for me about why his mum didn't have custody, you know, why she abducted him with the grandfather, and I guess the consequences of this abduction and wherever he's been living on the lad himself, because he will have been struggling with, I would imagine, all kinds of things, you know, guilt and anxiety and the lifelong damage that this will leave him with is kind of what stays in my mind. I think the other thing I'd say, Mike, is that I lost my own little granddaughter just before she was 3. Not in circumstances like this. She died tragically of a life-limiting condition. But, you know, the consequences of that and the impact on our family has never left us. But we had answers. You know, we knew that Macy was gone. The grandma that clearly was his primary carer, she had parental responsibility. You know, she's not known where where Alex has been for the past 6 years. And, you know, the thoughts and the concerns that she must have had to live with, not knowing whether he was alive or dead or missing, or, you know, what had happened. So I would imagine today she is over the moon that he is alive, and it would seem that he'll be coming home.
Yes, it looks as though he is going to come home. I think they're making arrangements for that as well, because he was able to flee, I guess, this spiritual community.
Yeah.
He's quoted as saying that his mother basically was kidnapped. His mother was a little crazy and she kidnapped him when he was 12. And I guess it tells you as well that there's an awful lot of people that go missing in this country and in lots of other countries. I remember when I lived in America, they used to, you know, have missing children and missing people printed on milk cartons, and it was something ridiculous, like 50,000 people go missing every single year, and nobody knows what happens to them.
No, I mean, you really know me from my job as an ex-police officer.
Yeah.
But when I first joined the police, I actually was 41, so I was a bit long in the tooth, and because I had 4 kids of my own and I was married. You know, when I first joined, I used to get sent to all the missing from homes. And a vast, you know, a lot of those people who go missing, usually when they are adults, many of them are never found. And we had a similar system here. We have the National Missing Persons Helpline, and I was asked with an inspector to review the way we dealt with people who went missing from home, and many of them were never found. But we did have in the UK, I think this was in about early 2000s, there was a campaign where we had missing people put on milk carts, milk packets, and
Yeah.
but many of those who go missing are never found. And
Mm.
the reality is, Mike, that if you are an adult and you go missing, the police will treat it really fairly low key, because as an adult you are, unless there are suspicious circumstances
Yeah.
around it, you are allowed to go missing.
Yeah.
Nobody's got any right to know where you are. It's very different though
Mm.
with an 11 or a 12-year-old boy. And from what I can read, the police did search for this boy. There was a suggestion that he'd gone to Morocco.
Yeah.
And I guess the question that came into my mind when I read about this is, will Madeleine McCann ever come
Yeah.
forward? Because we don't know, do we? We don't have answers. But for this boy, he clearly has has left this commune or whatever it was, and that must have taken great courage.
Yes.
But he had memories, I would imagine, of his life back home. If he'd been 4 or 5 years old, maybe he wouldn't have. So I'll be really interested to know what the story is behind this.
Yes.
And I'm sure that will all, come out in the coming weeks, I would think.
Yeah, no, I'm going to look forward to seeing some stories about that as well, 'cause
Yeah.
it's fascinating. Maggie, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Maggie Oliver there from the Maggie Oliver Foundation, we should say, which supports survivors of child sexual abuse and exploitation. There are so many missing people that never, ever return.